That there are some people in this world that did not tune in to the Alliance Vlog podcast. Shame on you! Shame on you! My name is Ella Indy, and I'm one half of the NWA Women's World Tag Team Champion. And I'm Kinsey Page, the other half of the NWA World Women's Tag Team Champion. And you better go listen to the Alliance Vlog, what's it called, the podcast, period. Or you're ugly. Period. You're Power approved.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the pre-party with Jay, Cal, and Fiona. And we're here presenting to you NWA Talk the best way it should be by two pals just talking about wrestling. And, you know, the best part of Hit the Turnbuckle podcast is joining us with Fiona. So thank you for coming to the show today and being on.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Real quick, let's plug Hitting the Podcast. You know, for those of us who aren't checking out hitting the Turnbuckle podcast, tell us about it and how'd you got started with that?
How did I get started? So my co-host Adam, I know from I work for so many different companies over here. So I work for Inside the Ropes in the UK, and we do spoken word tours, and we bring loads of former WWE, AEW stars over. So Adam's been coming to our shows in London for a long time, so I got to know him through that. And then he had just seen me tweeting constantly about NWA, and he was kind of like, oh, I should give this a watch. And then he reached out and he was like, look, do you fancy doing a kind of recap show on a Wednesday night? So, and it just kind of started from there. We do like literally 20 minutes, if that, just a rundown of what happened on the show, the matches, the results, and then a little bit of plugging of our own stuff from there. So I've been doing that for quite a few months now. So good times. But it's not just NWA, Hitting the Turnbuckle, and they do Raw reviews, SmackDown reviews, AEW reviews, and they do a lot of interviews with a lot of British talent as well as we've done on the NWA podcast. We've had a lot of a lot of the NWA stars interviews, and then people like Eric Bischoff and things like that as well, which has been really cool.
And you've been just doing it for a few months, huh?
Yeah, like I don't know how many months now, maybe 6, maybe not quite as many as that. So just a little while. We're not that established. Not with the NWA stuff anyway.
One of the things that I used to really enjoy was when we started this podcast, there was a couple of us doing, you know, NWA Talk. It was Gary Horn, it was me, it was a few other guys. And I said at the time, like, hey, let's, you know, we don't have to be opponents. We don't have to be foes. We could all lift each other up. Rising tides raise all boats. And it just makes me happy that there are so many voices in the medium about the NWA. Because when I started, you know, back in 2008, nobody was talking about the NWA. So for all the voices that we have now, I think it's awesome. And in our Discord, we have a lot of other NWA podcasts who have joined now. And so I think it's pretty cool. You know, even if it's talking about multiple wrestling promotions, the fact that NWA has this much attention, this much of a following, not just in the United States, but around the world, I think that's pretty cool.
I think it's way more global than I probably realized, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So,
no, I was
go
going
ahead.
to just say, I don't know. I don't have a lot of time to listen to a lot of podcasts. Obviously, I watch you when I can on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
I listen to the live stream on a Monday. I don't really have much time for other ones. So I don't really know what else is out there. But the more the merrier. The more the merrier. I couldn't get that out there as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, I think, and again, it's just if it was just one person yelling about wrestling, right? Like one person yelling at the clouds, I don't think that tells you very much about the product. But that's such a diverse group of people, and again, it's not just one or two people. It's, there's several, or at least I could think of at least a dozen right now that spend time with the NWA talking about the NWA. So I think it's really cool, and of course, I think it's cool that you and I finally get to do something together. After I've known you for a while, but we met.
It's been a few years now. We went 2 years ago at the Crockett Cup.
2 years ago at the Crockett Cup.
Before that, we'd spoken online before, so that's quite cool.
Are you going to make your way out to any events this year in the 2024?
Believe it or not, I'm actually going to be in the USA a week after Hard Times.
Oh no!
I fly out on the 8th of March. And Hard Times is the weekend before. I'm going out to Dallas and then up to Oklahoma to visit some friends and do some Route 66 driving, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
Me. So missing the wrestling. Little bit disappointed. Also not that fussed because Route 66 is me. So.
Well, and Route 66 stretches, from Texas all the way to like literally just down the street from where I'm at right now. So we did that during during COVID. We got an RV and we went down to the Grand Canyon, but we went into New Mexico and did the whole Route 66 up, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So I'm quite happy to forgo some wrestling. I mean, you never know. There might be some along the way that I can stop at and have a look at. I'm always up for a new promotion and new talent. So.
Well, you said Dallas, and there's always wrestling happening in Dallas.
Yeah. I'll be there. I'll be there for a couple of days to get over my jet lag before I take off on the roads.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, of course. It's like a 15-hour flight?
No, it's about 9 hours from the UK, I think.
Okay.
So it's not too bad. But I'm not sure whether I'm going down. Scotland, small country. You can't get anywhere from Scotland, so I have to go to London. And then I'm not sure if I'm going to go London to Dallas. I might have to do London to Chicago to Dallas or London to New York to Dallas. So all in, I think the travel day will be about 16 hours.
Jeez, yeah, that's rough. We keep talking about going to Scotland. Like I told you,
I'll be your tour guide.
I told my wife, I said, hey, I know somebody when we get there. She'll take us to all the cool spots.
Absolutely.
We had everything bought right before the pandemic, and then of course it kiboshed everything. So we still have
spoiled everything.
Yeah, we still have credits. I think at the Inverness, the hotel in Inverness near Loch Ness.
Go nicey hunting. It's beautiful up there.
It only from pictures I've seen, but yeah, it looks great. Let's talk wrestling because that's kind of what we do here. Of course, we're heading into Paranoia, the first signature live event presented by the NWA. The news I feel like I'm the one that broke the news because I didn't hear anyone talking about it first, so I'm going to take credit for it. But as it's been reported by me, FITE TV is no longer offering those previously purchased NWA pay-per-views. Now there's been some talk about that might change, that there might be some sort of way for fans who purchase these things to get access back to them. But what have you heard about with FITE canceling their NWA pay-per-view deal?
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. It's really disappointing. I spent a lot of money over the last few years on things, and I know we were talking earlier, similar to when the NWA subscription ended. I lost all the ones that I had through that as well. Occasionally I'll sit and watch a full pay-per-view again after I've already watched it, but more often than not, there's single matches that I want to just delve in and out of and rewatch and relive. So it is disappointing. I would love to see them come back some way. if they do a subscription service for older pay-per-views, I'd consider it, but the price would need to be realistic considering what I've already paid for them to see them before.
Yeah, and I mean it's kind of a bummer. You know, we were talking offline. I know I spent at least $300 myself, and I know that I'm not in the minority there.
No.
The only pay-per-views I didn't buy were the ones that I actually went to, or on the off chance that I knew that.
Them.
Yeah,
so I could see them.
So there was a couple of them that I was just like, oh man, I missed, you know, being able to go back and watch some of the highlights that I thought about were like being able to watch Trevor win the 10 pounds of gold by beating Nick Aldis at the 74th anniversary show. Like, I would love to go back and rewatch that match because I always like watching Nick Aldis lose. Secondly, like, you know, the watching the Briscoes win the Crockett Cup in
Absolutely,
2020.
that was one of the ones. And for me, seeing Doug in the final for that, Doug's my friend. I've known Doug for a very, very long time. So to see him in that final against the Briscoes was huge for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was disappointing to lose that one particularly.
Right. So, I mean, then that's two big events, you know, that, of course, I mean, I think one of the matches that I would have liked to have gone back to watch again was at the 75th, seeing Camille and Kenzie for the Burke. And it was one of those matches where you could see both. It was a generational match where it was literally, you could see Camille handing the torch to Kenzie Page. Yeah. And the fact that I can't go back and watch that, even though I paid for it, is kind of a bummer to me.
I'd love to go back and watch Camille again as well. I love that woman. She's so phenomenally talented. I would watch her all day long. But the match that she had with Markova last February, I want to say, was it Enough Said in Tampa?
Yeah.
I was there live, but that match was all over the place. It was outside the ring. So there was a lot that I missed because I was there in person and couldn't get a proper look at it. So I would actually love to watch that back as well, just to pick up on the things that I might have missed on it.
Give me just 1 second. You're going to be the center of the show for a second. Hold on.
I'll just have a quick look at the chat then. So let's see. Have I ever been to Australia? Roscoe, no, I have not. It's a very, very long way for me. I would love to one day. It's definitely on the bucket list for me. What else have we got? Who's your pick to dethrone Kenzie Page? Wow, Devin. That's a tough one. At the moment, I'm not sure if there is anyone. Realistically, I think Natalia Markova's maybe it, but I'm not the biggest fan. She's great. She's a phenomenal wrestler. I like her wrestling, but I'm not a fan, if you get what I mean. So maybe
who are we talking about?
But I don't know. I really don't know. To dethrone Kenzie, I want Kenzie to hold that belt for a while. Put it that way. The only other real threat would be Max. Realistically.
Okay, now that's a good question. Max, what do you think about Max challenging for the men's TV title? I haven't heard your take on this. Now, this is it's weird,
kind of controversial kind of situation, I think. I am not the biggest fan of intergender matches. Obviously, Max being non-binary means that they are able to go either way in terms of go for a men's championship or go for a female's championship. Combining the two championships to make them, what is it called? Undisputed? No, not undisputed. I've totally forgotten the word. Unify the championships. Means that they're either going to lose the men's championship or they're going to lose the female championship.
Right.
Or potentially they're just going to have a TV championship that's open to everyone. And then that opens the door to a whole host of intergender matches, which doesn't really appeal to me. But on that note, I will say Sal versus Missa was brilliant and I really enjoyed it. I know people didn't like that. Sal, I love Sal. I love watching Sal. His ring psychology is amazing. I thought they did a brilliant job. Him and Missa, I thought they were fab.
I think the world of Misa Kate. I think she is incredible in the ring. And under those circumstances, it made sense to me because Sal isn't a super heavyweight, bodily wise. Like, I'm sure he's still bigger than Misa Kate in terms of, actual even weight, but in terms of height and, they were very
They looked
comparable.
very evenly matched almost.
Yes. And I still don't like women's women's wrestling is beautiful, great, love it. Intergender wrestling, it's hard for me to wrap my head around. And I think I don't know if it's because, we're of an older generation that maybe that just doesn't appeal to us. I don't know. It's hard for me to get. And I want to get it.
Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and say it's wrong and it shouldn't happen, because wrestling is a box of chocolates and there's something for everyone in it. And that's what I love about it. Like, I'm not a deathmatch fan, but there are hundreds and thousands of people who love it. And that's great because there's stuff out there for that group of people. And there is plenty of intergender matches for those who like it. It just doesn't work for me. I am, and I've said it on the Turnbuckle podcast, I am a meat slapper wrestling fan. I like seeing two big lads just have an absolute barn fight.
Meaty men slapping meat.
Yeah, that's my wrestling.
So I always tell people my favorite wrestling is kind of like if you were a fan of WCW in the mid-90s, the cruiserweight division, when you saw an influx of talent from Japan, Mexico, even Europe had just this big smosh of wrestling. So guys like Dean Malenko and Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Jericho, Juventud Guerrera, Super Calo, like all these guys, I had so much fun enjoying that style of wrestling, which it kind of makes a lot of sense because now I find myself very attracted to Lucha Libre. Mm-hmm. But my second favorite would be, big meaty men slapping meat, because it's kind of what the NWA has been, at least in the Lightning One era. We've had this version of the NWA, and I like it. Even slightly before that, with Jax and Tim as world's heavyweight champion, we had big brawly guys. And even, you can start going backwards and you look at it. I think the smallest world champion the NWA had after Impact was like Blue Demon Jr., who still isn't a small guy.
No, not at all.
But you'd have like Rob Conway, Adam Pearce, Colt Cabana. So a lot of those guys were, I don't want to say they're all, hosses. Like, obviously Trevor Murdoch is a hoss, Tim Storm's a hoss, but these guys were all kind of in that same, they weren't of diminutive stature.
Yeah, I like hearing, like, I love just the ring shaking when there's guys like that in the ring. For me, that's
So how did you become a fan of the NWA? Because I mean, obviously, when you started, when Power kicked off, it wasn't like it was being promoted exclusively to the United Kingdom. How did you get an opportunity to fall in love with the NWA?
So I've been watching wrestling since, now I'm going to show my age, since the very early 80s. I was a World of Sport girl as a little kid. That's my first memory of wrestling, sitting with my gran watching World of Sport when I was 3 or 4 years old. So Giant Haystacks, Kendo Nagasaki,
Big Daddy.
Yeah, so all of these guys, Rollerball Rocco, all of these guys. And then World of Sport went off the TV and it disappeared for me. I came back to wrestling late 80s, maybe, 90s. The Rockers, basically. I saw Marty Jannetty flying through the air at my friend's house, and I was like, what is this? And I was like, wait a minute, I remember this. And I fell back into it then. But I never had cable TV. I never had satellite TV, so I didn't have access to it until I was a grown adult. And when I got married and got my house and was able to afford a cable package, I was like, wrestling. So I knew about the NWA because obviously the belt had been in WCW in various places. It had been defended over the place. But I met Lagana through working in the UK at other shows. And Lagana introduced me to the kind of new era of NWA. he introduced me to the £10 Gold series, and he was like, I really think you would like it. Please check it out. And I was like, this is perfect. I don't have 3 hours to watch a live show.
Right.
I have an hour. Power was perfect. And I just fell in love. And then to see folk like Nick, who I know from here and I've worked with numerous times in the UK. Tom, who was in the UK's Bram for years. I know really well. I've worked with him. So to see people that I know was like a really, really, like, I was like, this is great. These are my friends. I want to go and support it. And it's 50 minutes of my week. Perfect. Yeah. And I've never looked back, really.
Devin Dowling, Double D in the chat says, Fee, what's your take on What Culture wrestling?
Wow. So What Culture, I worked with What Culture for a little while through Inside the Ropes. And I did a lot of my job with Inside the Ropes is kind of talent PA. It's driving the talent around the country. It's making sure they get from A to B. It's hosting their meet and greets and bits and pieces. So I worked with them for quite a while. Drove the Young Bucks, drove Alberto, drove Paige, drove Matt Hardy, drove Chris Danielson, drove Adam Cole, Moose, like all of these guys. I used to drive like a 7-seater, and all these guys would be in the back. I'd be sitting looking in the rearview mirror going, what is my life? What Culture was great for the UK. It brought over so many like international overseas talent that we might not have seen otherwise. So
right.
I really enjoyed the shows. We did a World Cup. So we had like a Mexican leg, which had, oh my goodness, it had Rey Mysterio, it had Alberto, it had Rey Fenix, it had Pentel Zero M, it had loads of luchas over. And then we did like a European one, and then we did an American one, and like we had Cody over and things like that, and Brandy as well. So it was really cool. I thought What Culture was great for UK wrestling. It was good times for me as well.
Mike wants to know what you think of the YouTube channel, the What Culture, representing UK wrestling.
I haven't watched it in a very long time.
That's fair. It's interesting how your story is how you got involved with wrestling, strictly because the NWA was presented to you really by one of the guys that was producing it in Dave Lagana. So that's pretty interesting. During the time when there was no NWA in your life, did you ever watch? Because I know Impact for a while was very big in the UK. Was it big in Scotland as well?
Yeah, I think it was. Again, I dipped in and out. I dipped in and out of WWE when I could. Impact wasn't quite so easy to watch. I think we had to do another subscription service and things like that. So I watched bits and pieces. A lot of my wrestling, to be honest with you, I have 3 kids and I work a full-time job. I don't have a lot of disposable income. So a lot of my wrestling comes off of YouTube, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So I maybe wouldn't watch full shows. And even now, I'll scroll through social media, particularly Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. And if folk are raving about a match, then I'll go and look for it. So I'm very loyal to NWA, but I'm very open to everything else. So I'll go and watch a AAA match because somebody's raved about a lucha match on there, or I want to go and see Mecha Wolf because I know Mecha Wolf, so I want to go and see him there, or see, or somebody will say, "Oh, go and watch this and this promotion in America." So, and I dip in and out of the Japanese stuff as well.
There's a cool thing about in the UK right now, there seems to be like another renaissance. I felt like the WWE UK might have kind of killed that a little bit, but it seems like there's a lot more UK based promotions popping back up again. So I feel like that's a really good sign of, things are getting better.
There was a lot of talk about that. When NXT UK came in, they did take a lot of really, really good British talent. And there was that worry that it would ruin the indies over here. Mm-hmm. But all it's really done is given younger, hungry people the chance to shine.
That's great.
And now the scene in the UK is absolutely thriving. And it's not, I don't think it's saturated at all. Even in the last year or so, there's been a couple of really, really good promotions that have sprung up north to south. So, and it's kind of like what I said earlier, there is something for absolutely everyone.
And that's the beauty of pro wrestling. That
Absolutely.
I always tell people, similar to what you said, like I call it Baskin Robbins. That's ice cream out here where there's 31 flavors.
Yeah.
You lived in the U.S. for a while, so you might know that.
Well, we have Baskin Robbins here as well, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Perfect. So there's a flavor for everybody.
Absolutely.
And the great thing about wrestling is it's so subjective. So what you love, you and I could love the same exact thing for entirely different reasons.
Completely. Yeah.
And that's what I think is really cool about pro wrestling in general. I know there's more questions in the chat. I know Willie
I'm
says,
just laughing at somebody saying I can listen to Fiona say 6 all night. That's it. 6, not 6. 6.
don't let them tell you what to do. Especially Mike. He's a good guy, but he might get us in trouble one of these days. Let's talk about, I mean, obviously there's a big card tonight, but let's talk about what's happening this weekend. Paranoia is coming up, and obviously there's going to be quite a few big matches that are happening this weekend. What match are you looking forward to most when hopefully it eventually gets to you in the UK?
I know. Well, this is it. Signature live event. It looks like it's going out in a series of parts, and it's not an actual pay-per-view, which is disappointing because I like the whole pay-per-view. I had a conversation with someone the other day about I like getting the snacks in. I like having the afternoon nap because it's on so late. Pulling the sofa bed out so I'm comfortable. I like the whole, just a pay-per-view is a big event for me.
Right.
What am I looking forward to? I'm actually quite looking forward to seeing Mecca and Colby Carino for that's the junior heavyweight championship. Yeah,
that's the only graphic
like Mecca will for junior heavyweight. No offense, Mecca Wolf, I love you, but I think that'll be good. I love watching Colby work. I think Colby is a phenomenal talent, so I love watching Colby work.
I'm very interested to see how well they're going to gel together in the ring, considering, like, we've seen Mecha Wolf as a tag team specialist for the most part of his time in the NWA, but like he's an IWA Puerto Rico junior heavyweight champion in the past. He's a former World Wrestling Council junior heavyweight champion. He's had a lot of success as a singles wrestler. And to be quite honest, I kind of thought that maybe the push for him as a singles would be more towards the TV title. I had no idea that it would be for the World Junior Heavyweight title, which I think is very exciting. And the fact that Colby Carino seems to work well with everybody.
Yeah.
I don't
think I've ever seen him have a bad match, to be honest.
I mean, so far, no. I can't think of one bad match he's had. He looked good with Joe Alonzo. He looked good with Kerry Morton. He looked good with in that 4-way match with Homicide and Austin Aries. And I can't forget forgetting the other guy's name right now. But there was the when they crowned the junior heavyweight champion, when he came back, he had a lot of good matches leading up to becoming the junior heavyweight champion. So I've been very impressed with Colby. I've always felt like maybe he might be only here for a short time. So I don't know.
Back, though. So
what's
glad
that?
I'm so glad he came back. I know.
Yeah, me too.
So I was delighted to see him back, and that match with Joe Alonzo at Samhain was fabulous.
Here's a question I know you're going to have an answer for, and it is from our friend Roscoe. And Roscoe says, thoughts on Jack Stane and Tim Storm as a tag team. Could they defeat Blunt Force Trauma?
I bloody hope so. No, I'm really excited to see Jax and Tim team up together. What happened at 75 was just horrible and really, really unfortunate for Tim, because I actually thought that they could have had a really, really good singles match. And I'm disappointed for both of those guys that they didn't get to have that match. And I'm disappointed for myself as a fan that I didn't get to see it. They're both former world champions. They are both two very big guys. as long as Aaron Stevens isn't around and isn't involved, I think there's a real good chance they could do it. And I would love to see them both with a belt, even if it's just for one last time. So I am all for that.
I agree with that. And the thing about, see, I was there at 75. So when that happened with Tim, like, we weren't sure if it was a work or not. You know, we sat there, we're like, oh, wait, is he all right? Wait a minute, this doesn't look okay. And you know, obviously it's a live event. They're not going to get on the mic and say, hey, everyone, you know, take a knee and say a prayer for Tim. He's really hurt. But like, for that moment, you're like, is this, I don't know if this is a work or not. And then you had Chris Silvio yelling at Jax to go get him. So you're like, oh, what is going on? But we were terrified. And then when we saw, obviously, he started getting up and moving, we're like, okay, thank God he's all right. But in that moment,
some of the boys came out from out the back as well. I know that wasn't on camera. Really, you couldn't really see it, but I know that a couple of boys came out from the back to kind of help him out and help him out the ring and get him backstage. So, and
you know, we were kind of worried, like, with this, is this the last time we're going to see Tim Storm in the ring? And thankfully, no. And I think him and Jack Dane, you know, two guys cut from the same cloth.
They've got so much history. They have known each other for years, and they have fought each other so many times over the years. Even out with the NWA, they have fought all over the country. They are, I think they'll be good together. I'm excited to see what happens.
It's going to be a fun match. Once, I'm not sure when that takes place. I don't know if that's going to be at Paranoia or when, but just the fact that they're teaming, I think, is going to be a very interesting cog in the tag team division.
I'm wondering even if, obviously, we've got one more episode of Power to go tonight, so maybe something will happen tonight that will give us an indication of what's going to happen moving forward, whether it will be at Paranoia or whether it be the tapings, but we'll just need to wait and see.
Yeah, and again, I think the pairing is a good pairing. So that whole dynamic, you know, Damage and
Carnage.
Thank you. Gosh, sometimes the brain doesn't work. Damage and Carnage, I think, would put on a very interesting matchup for Jax and Tim. So if it does happen, I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, very much so.
What do you think about the match of death between Mr.
EC3 and Cardona?
Yes, I was trying to pull up the graphic.
Or Jax and Cardona.
Yeah.
Depending on what happens tonight.
That's true. We can't get too ahead of ourselves.
Or EC3 and Cardona for no belt, I guess. I like Cardona. I really like Cardona. I have worked with EC3 before, and he's super professional and super talented. I'm still not quite sure if I like his current, I don't know
persona.
I'm not entirely sure if I'm on board with that. But I've also worked with Matt Cardona. I worked with Matt at 1PW and various other places. I love what he does at the moment. I just feel like he won't win. And I think for me, I hate to say it, I'm kind of thinking business terms as opposed to being a fan terms. I don't think he'll stick around long enough to warrant him winning this match. Yeah. But I genuinely think it could be good fun. I've never seen EC3 in it's not a hardcore match, it's a
match of death.
Yeah. I'm not a hardcore wrestling fan. I said that earlier. I don't really know how hardcore NWA will go. Although we've seen them do other stupid things in the past, but the less said about that, the better. So yeah, I'm not sure. Ultimate Match of Death, that's the one.
There it is.
Yeah, it's not top of my want to see for the night, but I think it'll be fun. I hope it'll be fun. I'm hoping for weapons. Like I've just said, I'm not a deathmatch fan, but you can't have a deathmatch and not have weapons. So.
No, kendo stick, a chair, give me something.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this, because we are just two fans talking about wrestling. Does it bother you that they didn't do more to hype up the match with Jax and EC3? I kind of feel like There's already so much
Yes.
emphasis on what's happening next for EC3 that I don't feel like they gave enough spotlight to Jack Sane, a former world heavyweight champion in his own right, former national champion. I mean, it's not like he's been.
Had pretty much every belt in the NWA.
And now that there's an intergender title, he can win that one too. You never know.
I feel like this main event tonight has flown under the radar. And I feel like Jax deserves so much more respect than that. So much more respect. When you look at the history and you look at his championship history and where he's been and what he's done, I spoke to somebody and they were like, why is Jax getting a championship shot? So there's not really, although they had the whole kind of awkward almost moment in the ring where they had the handshake, there's not really been a build up to it.
Yeah.
And then for me to see that and then have advertised that he's teaming with Tim next week, it's off. It just doesn't work. Do you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't work for me. Don't have him in a championship match for the world's heavyweight championship. Not advertise it, not have a full story, but at the same time advertise him in a tag team match for the following week. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I think had they kicked off the first episode of Power that was from the Robarts Arena with that match as the main event, I think it would have carried a lot more weight and it would have told that story so much better that, okay, Jackson EC3, whatever happens, now you can focus on what EC3 is doing next, and then you can focus on what Jax is doing next. And instead of we're kind of been in this wrestling purgatory waiting to see this match when they've already kind of outed the result, not in so many words, but obviously, they don't have Jax set up for a title match at Paranoia. So, you can kind of read the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
I don't want to ever hamstring the booking, but I also feel like you should tell the story before starting the next one.
That's a pet hate for me. That's a real pet hate for me. Like, I don't, to me, that's them saying, okay, so Jax is in a title match tonight. But EC3 is defending his belt next week.
Yeah.
Why do that? Like, obviously, we know we watch, but for a casual fan who's maybe not really that clued in, that just confuses everything for them.
Yeah, and essentially, it takes away a little bit of the mystique, And
it does. It's disappointing. It's poor for me. It's poor. I'm not a fan of it, and regardless of whatever company from AEW, WWE, NWA, right down to my little local indie that I MC for. If they were to do it, I'd be like to the promoter, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
So
don't take the heat before they've even had a chance to enter the ring,
Exactly.
So we have a very interesting episode of Power this week. Of course, I kind of find it interesting that the graphic that is used by the company to represent the show, you see an opponent for each match. That's not EC3 front and center. That's Kenzie Page. How do you feel about that? I mean,
I'm okay with that. I am okay with that.
Yeah.
It's quite nice to see a female front and center. I love Kenzie as a champ, so I'm cool with her being right in the middle. I mean she's an asshole, but I love her.
Well, like I get heat for it, but I always say like Ella Envy is one of my favorite wrestlers in the NWA right now. Yes, she's beautiful. Yes, she's attractive, all that. But I feel more like that is the personification of what you want in a heel. So cocky, absolutely. So arrogant.
Absolutely.
The facials are great. Like if you watch her face.
I love it. It's like watching Sal and that little promo that you do at the start. It's like Sal in the back with his face. Like that. I will never not laugh at that video, but I get it. She's exactly the same. Exactly the same.
We have a tag team match of speaking of Ella Envy, putting her and partner Kylie Page taking on former number one contender Ruthie J and former tag team champion Misa Kate. Again, I feel like these results have already been spoiled, but I feel like this is going to be a good matchup. What are your thoughts on this one?
I think so as well. I rate all four of the females in this match. I think Ella and Kylie are a great tag team. My one gripe is have Missa and Ruthie tagged before. I am a fan of proper tag teams with chemistry who have worked together. This just pick you and throw you together. Not a fan of that.
I
Not
agree.
to say that I don't like their work, but if you're, again, my brain's just like, nah, it doesn't work for me.
No, I agree with you on that, because again, the whole part of the story is in wrestling, wins and losses are supposed to matter. So you're putting a tag team who, as far as the NWA audience is aware of, never teamed before, and now just because they're a tag team, they get a title shot. That just doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't at all.
And I love Misa Kate. Ruthie J has been so good. In fact,
absolutely. Like I said, great girls, but
yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Misa Kate's going to be the MVP of the NWA in 2024.
I think that's a fair statement.
The next matchup we have, if I am not mistaken, we're going to see the Country Gentlemen 2.0 versus Knox and Murdoch.
I'm so excited for this.
The promo last week from Knox was so good, and I've
not me up so much.
He's a guy who I never thought I would be like, hey, that's somebody I'm interested in what he has to say. And I'm just speaking candidly here. I've watched Mike Knox's career from back when 20 plus years. Yeah. You know, I saw him at UPW as part of the developmental for WWE, and he never clicked for me. But that promo was money, cool. And him and Murdoch in this, Rough Rider, crazy cowboy thing.
I absolutely adore them. And I realize I am sitting talking how much I love them when I'm actually wearing a Kazana jacket. I don't know if you can see this. I have a Kazana jacket on. I love the Country Gentlemen though. I think Casey and AJ together, interesting like obviously new combination or new-ish combination.
Yeah.
They're great. But I am all for Knox and Murdoch. Sorry, AJ, still love you.
Getting to speak to Papa Joe, and he was gleaming with pride about both of his boys, but I find out that Casey's only been in the business for about a year now. And so you're like, wow, only a year in, and he's pretty solid with just a year under his belt.
On for just being a year in as well.
He could. I really think something could happen for him very positively in the future. Next up, we have the women's title on the line. Miss Star challenging Kenzie Page for the Burke. What do you think of this new incarnation of Miss Star? Do you feel like it's complimentary of the character?
She's a bitch. Sorry, but I'm like, all of a sudden she came from being all, oh, hi, I'm smug with her, and I'm this. And then I was like, whoa, what Kool-Aid have you been drinking? But I'm interested to see what happens with this. The whole thing with her and Chelsea when she attacked Chelsea in the ring kind of came out the blue a little bit.
Yeah.
There was no real backstory to it. Kenzie I love, and I want to see Kenzie keep the belt. But I think Miss Star, I think she could be trouble for Kenzie.
Yeah, I agree with that's a great take on that, because with Misa, I almost called her Misa, with Miss Star, I mean, you're talking about a third, fourth generation wrestler.
Like her entire family, basically.
If you tap her DNA, it just says wrestler in it, so it's not a surprise that she's in the position that she's in. However, we've watched her mature in the NWA. We've seen her grow in the NWA, but we've also seen Kenzie grow in the NWA. Remember, Kenzie was the Spitfall who was challenging, Camille way back when, and she's really come into her own. The gimmick is kind of lined up. The wrestling is like really solid, like probably one of the best.
She is just incredible. She's so young still.
It's incredible. We talk about like some of the best wrestlers under 30, right? And the first name people say is like MJF, but I'm like, have you seen this girl Kenzie Page? Pay attention.
And you go NWA and they go, oh, don't watch that. You're like,
yeah.
sure.
It's true though. And then the big match of the night, the one that I'm going to be watching with a lot of extra scrutiny, it's going to be our world's heavyweight champion EC3 defending on a former national champion, former North American champion, a former tag team champion, and a former world's heavyweight champion in Jack Stane. What do you think of this one? I know we've kind of talked about it, but what are you expecting in this match?
I'm not sure. I kind of feel like Jax would want to come in and just bulldoze it. He's a big lad, lots of suplexes and things like that. But I actually think this has got the potential to be quite technical. I'm looking forward to this one tonight. EC3 plays a lot of mind games, and I don't know if that's going to play into it with Jax tonight or not. I'm not sure. I think realistically, if I didn't think that EC3 was winning, I would have said it would go either way. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to articulate that, but I think it's actually probably going to be more evenly matched than maybe you would realize.
And I guess to me, that's going to say a lot of how they feel about Jack Stane as a competitor, because if this thing is not competitive, if it just kind of goes, one way, then obviously they don't see much in Jack Stane or value him as a competitor.
That would make no sense. Again, that would be so disrespectful to him
and
as a wrestler.
I just can't see in a good world why you would waste Jack Stane in that capacity. So I'm really hoping for a good competitive match, and maybe there will be some sort of screwball ending, maybe some sort of, I know Matt Cardona won't be there. We already know that. So hopefully hopefully it just makes sense. It's a good story. Whatever happens.
That's all I want. I am very much a make it make sense to me. Which sometimes, unfortunately, NWA has me leaving scratching my head more often than not.
It's one of these things, and people, like my wife has asked me this. You complain about the product so much, yet you watch it every week. How do you answer that? I said, look, it's one of these things where, like, do I think I could do better than Billy? Probably not. Realistically, no, probably not. But I'm sure I can help.
We're all armchair bookers at the end of the day. Every single one of us is an armchair booker.
Yep, that's for sure. That's 100% true. So with that being said, and as we venture into these new signature live events, it's definitely going to affect the way that you watch the NWA going forward. And I know that there's been kind of ramblings and rumors and shout outs in live streams, but I mean, what is your best guess? If you had to make a hedge a bet, how do you think that you will be able to watch this come February?
I hope it goes on some sort of streaming site that I have to pay a monthly subscription for. The fact that Paranoia's on Saturday, so where are we? Tuesday, Wednesday. 4 more sleeps. I counting sleeps. So 4 more sleeps to Paranoia. A week away from brand new Power. I don't know if I'm going to get to see it. And it's really frustrating as a fan who has pretty much given NWA my all these last few years. I have spent thousands when I think about the trips over to the Crockett Cup and the shows and the pay-per-views and the merch that I've bought. I have spent literally thousands and thousands of dollars or pounds, depending on what, either way, same thing. And to almost feel a little bit disregarded, I think.
Yeah.
For the last few weeks. So we're on the CW, we're on the CW app, we're on this, and there's been nothing for international fans. So I know it's not just me. There's people in Australia, there's people in Holland and France and Canada. There's people all over the world who watch the product and have no idea. And then there's people going, just get a VPN. I'm like, no, why should I get a VPN to watch?
Right.
Why should I have to fork out? I'll fork out for streaming service, but I'm not forking out for VPN.
Yeah.
I'm really disappointed that it's not been sorted. It's not to say it won't be sorted, and I believe it will be. I think they're sick of me tweeting them. I don't know if anyone watched the live stream last night, but Kyle did say to me that on the stream that he's hoping to hear something in the next couple of days. Poyo finally responded to me at the end of last week when I'd been tweeting about it. But I think just the fact that it's a week away and I don't know is a poor show, and it's really disappointing.
Yeah. And as somebody who, again, like you, has spent so much money, not just on tickets, not just on pay-per-views, but traveling to the shows, I can totally empathize with the feeling disregarded, because, again, I'm not saying that the market needs to cater to one individual, but
No,
it's not just one individual.
It's not. I know there's people in the chat here that aren't from the USA that are wondering where they're going to see it.
Yeah,
I've just been very vocal about it. That's all. I've obviously got my podcast to think about as well. So tomorrow I'll watch NWA tonight. I'll sit down and record Hitting the Turnbuckle tomorrow night. Right now, and probably even tomorrow, that's potentially my last podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why do I sign off tomorrow night? It's been nice knowing you, thanks. And then all of a sudden next Tuesday, oh, surprise, we're back. Like, it's frustrating, really frustrating. And it's probably the most frustrating thing I've ever come across with NWA, to be honest with you. I'm disappointed.
Have you thought, or at least gave any kind of thought to maybe starting to watch a competing promotion like MLW or the United Wrestling Network? Both are still available on YouTube.
UWN have got some new stuff coming up, haven't they? Is that David Marquez's stuff?
Yes.
So I know he's got some tapings this weekend, is it?
Yeah,
next weekend?
Sunday. I'll be out there in Long Beach. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I am very much I'm loyal to NWA, but I will watch anything that's going if I think it takes my interest. I think I will get to see NWA. Whether I'll get to see it next Tuesday, I'm less hopeful about, because that's really not a lot of time to turn things around. I don't reckon it'll disappear for me, but how I'll get to watch it, I don't know.
Well, it's kind of funny that you bring all this up, because now that you say it out loud right now, I'm thinking I've been doing this live stream for the past, I guess, going on 5 years now, right? And it was always on Tuesday, and it was always ahead of whatever NWA content came out. So without an NWA Power on Tuesday, I'm not really sure what I'll be doing on Tuesday next week.
That's it. And you kind of, it's ridiculously you plan your week around it. I know that Tuesday night, I sit down with my cup of tea and a slice of cake and I watch NWA. And I know that on Wednesday, occasionally Thursday, depending on our schedules, we podcast.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I'll be kind of like, well, what do I do with my life now?
Well, and then there's always Kazan's promotions and
I've
Exodus Pro.
Some of that on YouTube as well, and there's Exodus Pro and things like that as well. So there is other stuff out there, but I don't want other stuff. I want my NWA.
I hear you.
Bottom line, I want my NWA.
No, and that's that should go on a sweatshirt somewhere. I want my MTV. No, I want my NWA.
I know. I'm very obviously it's not mine, but out of all of my friends in the UK, and I'm like the laughing stock, because they're all AEW and WWE, and I'm like NWA. I'm like that sole person that's banging that drum for NWA. So it's mine. It's my baby, and I don't want to lose it.
I know exactly how you feel, because it's although this is the first time it's been in jeopardy for an international audience. I mean, if anyone who's watched the NWA for a long period of time, for the longest time, what Dave Marquez was doing was considered the NWA for a very long time, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, NWA Hollywood. And then when that whole rift became from the old owners, from the previous owners before Billy, and all that stuff happened, they took away the NWA from me in some regard. So yeah, it's still just
I don't think I'm going to lose it. I just not convinced I'll have it next Tuesday. That's all. And as for the content, I've seen people comment, as for the content disappearing from YouTube, who knows? That's anyone's guess, because there's not really, as far as I'm aware, there's not been any kind of solid statement from anyone in NWA to see what's happening with the YouTube channel.
It's the other part to that too is now Billy Corgan had went on the satellite radio Sirius XM Busted Open and said, hey, we have 2 TV deals with the top 20 and said, I will come back on the show when we're ready to announce it. He hasn't been back on the show. He hasn't announced anything. And even the NWA appearing on the CW app after the NXT announcement, still like there was no conversation, there was no announcement, there was nothing formal from Billy Corgan, nothing formal from the CW like we would see with, with the NXT signed with CW. There was press releases, there was people talking about it, and I feel like we're in the dark.
And the other thing as well, I know we're kind of close on time. The other thing was just the Signature Live event is obviously being broken up into episodes. Are they going to bring full 3-hour-long pay-per-views back? Or is every Signature Live event now going to be a TV taping that's split into 3 or 4 episodes?
Well, and that brings up a whole other can of worms, because if you heard
don't have time to talk about that.
we got a minute or two real quick. Sal Wynn, the reports were that did 230 buys for pay-per-views, which I know, the NWA wouldn't have matched, the old WWF style pay-per-views or WCW pay-per-views, but 230 buys seems relatively low for a pay-per-view. Maybe with what CW is offering them is just a price point where they're making more money doing premium live events than they are doing pay-per-view or signature live events.
I don't know. I really don't know. But I will, if they do them as episodes, I will miss the pay-per-views. It was an event. It was an event for me. It was okay, there's a pay-per-view this weekend. What snacks? Like I said, what snacks are we getting and what are we doing? And they never started until like 1 a.m. in the morning for me over here. So especially the ones in the summer, it would be light when they started and it would get dark and then they'd finish and it would be daylight again.
Amazing.
Like 3 hours of darkness, and that was when the pay-per-view was on and the sun would be coming up and it'd be 5 a.m. and I'd be going to bed.
That sounds like a good time. Well, I guess we're going to wrap it up here, but I really do appreciate you taking time to be with us today. Fee, we've talked about this for a while.
It's been good to see you and good to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gary Horn just popped in and said
it's live.
Gary, you should have been on with us, brah. See, that was Dr. Stinson coming out right there. Where's he been?
I miss Doc.
I miss Will too. I haven't seen Will around in a while, but we'll be here. Oh, look at that!
I can't do hearts. I've got little dumpy fingers.
Well, I mean, that's the whole chat was saying that earlier, Fee. So you're good. But we're gonna call it a night. And again, tell folks how they can watch what might be the last episode of Hitting the Turnbuckle for a while.
Turnbuckle. So it'll go out on Thursday on our YouTube channel at HTT Buckle. I can't even remember the handle, which is oops. So yeah, Hitting the Turnbuckle. You just search Hitting the Turnbuckle on YouTube. You'll find all our previous NWA reviews. You'll find interviews with various NWA stars on there as well as all the AEW and WWE stuff. So yeah, go for it. Go and check us out and give us a wee like. It may well be my last one. I hope it's not, but it might be. You never know.
And they can find you on X at
Trixie Lex.
Yes,
TRIXILIX at Trixie Lex. And then on Instagram at Trixie_Lex as well. So, and Inside the Ropes, I'm at the shows in the UK there. We've got Trish Stratus and Sergeant Slaughter coming up next month. I'm so excited.
Wait a minute. Now, hold on. Gary Horn is late breaking news here. This just handed to me. You'll hear the new Power date and things might not be so different. Fees arrangement working on it. New Power date tonight.
Okay.
That's all right, exciting. Gary.
Thank you, Gary. Love you.
And then real quick, Willie Bowen had this question, and I'm trying to find it again to ask you. Let me see, Willie, where's the question? Put it up one more time, Willie. Oh, here it is. Do you watch Riot Girls Wrestling? I'm unfamiliar.
I don't. I know of it, but I don't watch it, unfortunately. And the other one that I've just seen, have I ever met Lulu or Sheena Easton? No, I have not.
I think someone said that your voice sounded like Sheena Easton at some point.
Yeah.
You get that a lot?
Not over here, funnily enough, because everyone obviously sounds like her, but...
Okay. Well, guys, jump on over to youtube.com/NWA. Go watch what might be the last episode on YouTube, maybe. But you can see us tomorrow night about this time for the other guys. And of course, Thursday night, the originals will be here. But until next time, we'll see you at the matches. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.